What if the path you walk in search of meaning is the very thing that blinds you to it? What if every question you ask about purpose, every desperate reaching toward a grand design, becomes just another chain binding you to the illusion of direction? You wander through life with a compass pointed only at your own desperation, believing the needle trembles toward truth, when in truth, it only echoes your trembling hands. Consider this. The modern soul clings to purpose like a drowning man grasps at drifting wood, convinced salvation lies not in the depths beneath him, but in the fragile buoyancy of certainty. Yet what drowns faster than the one who refuses to sink? Purpose has become a god fashioned in the image of fear, a false idol carved from borrowed dreams and second-hand truths. The more you chase it, the more it flees. The tighter you hold, the quicker it dissolves. You were told to find your calling, to follow your passion, to live intentionally, as if life itself were a riddle waiting to be solved by the clever and the chosen. But what if there is no riddle? What if the greatest deception is not the absence of meaning, but a belief that meaning must always be found, rather than forged in fire, stolen like lightning, or born screaming from the abyss of your own will? The herd seeks purpose like water seeks level ground, but the eagle sees only sky. Have you ever wondered if your hunger for purpose is merely the echo of another's voice, a whisper once spoken in your childhood, now grown monstrous in your mind? Perhaps you are not lost. Perhaps you have been too obediently found. And perhaps, just perhaps, the only way forward is not toward some shining destiny, but backward, into the shadows where your forgotten self still waits, silent, watching unclaimed. This is not a journey you can plan. It is not a puzzle you can solve. It is a mirror you must break before you can see. So tell me, do you dare look? What if the very act of seeking meaning is itself a confession of blindness? You wander through life clutching at fragments, borrowed truths, inherited dreams, second-hand certainties, believing that somewhere beyond the horizon lies the answer you have been chasing since the first time you asked why. But what if the question itself is a prison? What if your relentless pursuit of purpose is not a path forward, but a circle you walk again and again, each step echoing with the same unfulfilled promise? Soon, 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 you were taught to believe in direction. That life must be a line stretching from point A to point B, from birth to destiny, from chaos to clarity. And so you build your towers of purpose, careers, relationships, achievements, hoping they will anchor you to something greater than yourself. But the deeper you dig, the more fragile these foundations become. The closer you get, the further away it seems. Purpose becomes a ghost you chase through the ruins of your own expectations, whispering prayers into the void, waiting for an answer that never comes. And yet, perhaps the silence is not absence. Perhaps it is revelation. Perhaps the reason you cannot find meaning is because meaning was never meant to be found. It was meant to be created, not discovered like a hidden treasure buried beneath layers of suffering, but forged like fire in the darkness, not by searching, but by burning. The world does not offer meaning on a silver platter. It demands that you carve it from the flesh of your own will, that you bleed for it, that you suffer for it, that you rise from the ashes of your own illusion stronger, fiercer, more real. But who among you dares to do this? Who among you dares to look into the abyss and say, I will create my own light? You fear the weight of such responsibility. And so you cling to systems, ideologies, roles handed down to you by those too afraid to ask the same questions. You wear masks of certainty, speak in slogans, repeat affirmations like incantations, hoping that if you say it often enough, you might begin to believe it. But belief without creation is hollow. Faith without fire is just another kind of slavery. You are told to find your passion, as if passion were some lost key buried in your childhood memories, waiting to be unearthed. But passion is not something you find. Passion is something you ignite. It is not a destination. It is a wildfire, and the only way to truly possess it is to risk being consumed by it. So tell me, Are you willing to burn? Are you willing to let go of everything you thought you knew about purpose, about success, about happiness? Are you willing to stare into the mirror and see not the face you show to the world, but the one you hide even from yourself? Because until you do, you will remain trapped in the illusion of direction, forever walking toward a horizon that recedes with every step. There is no map for this journey, no GPS for the soul, only the raw, unfiltered experience of becoming, of shedding the skin of expectation, of stepping into the unknown, not with confidence, but with courage, of embracing the chaos within and daring to shape it into something new. This is not easy. This is not comfortable. This is not safe. But nothing true ever is. You were not born to follow paths. You were born to carve them, to break them, to transcend them. And yet here you stand, waiting for someone else to hand you the blueprint for your own existence, waiting for permission, waiting for validation, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect sign. But the perfect moment will never come, because perfection is the enemy of action, certainty is the enemy of creation, and comfort is the enemy of transformation. The modern man seeks purpose like a traveler seeking shelter in a storm, desperate, frantic, clinging to anything that promises safety. But what if the storm is not your enemy? What if the storm is your birthright? What if the only way to survive is not to escape it, but to dance in the rain, to let the thunder shake your bones, to let the lightning crack open your sky, to let the wind howl through your soul until you remember who you truly are? You were not made for comfort. You were made for greatness, for struggle, for transcendence, for the eternal war between who you are and who you could become. And yet you hesitate, because greatness demands sacrifice. It demands that you give up the illusion of control, that you surrender to the chaos, that you embrace the unknown not with fear, but with hunger, that you stop asking for guarantees and start demanding possibilities. But possibility is terrifying, because possibility requires imagination, requires vision, requires a willingness to dream when everyone around you has stopped believing. Tell me, when did you stop dreaming? When did you trade your vision for routines, your ambition for excuses, your fire for convenience? Somewhere along the way, you learn to play small, to apologize for your power, to mute your voice, to fit into the mold others carve for you. And now you wonder why you feel empty, why nothing satisfies, why the more you achieve, the less it means. Because achievement without authenticity is just another form of decay. Because success without soul is just another mask of despair. Because purpose without passion is just another cage. And still you search, still you seek, still you wander. But maybe, just maybe, the reason you cannot find what you're looking for is because it was never outside of you to begin. Maybe meaning was never meant to be found in books or seminars or gurus or TED Talks. Maybe meaning was never meant to be given. Maybe meaning was always meant to be taken, like fire from the gods, like truth from the shadows, like power from the void. And the only way to take it is to become worthy of it, not by following the footsteps of others, but by leaving your own, not by repeating the words of the past, but by speaking the language of the future, not by living according to someone else's rules, but by creating your own. This is a paradox of purpose. It cannot be sought. It can only be seized. It cannot be earned. It can only be claimed. It cannot be understood. It can only be lived. And the moment you stop asking where it is the moment you realize you were carrying it all along, but not in your hands, in your will, in your fire, in your refusal to accept anything less than the fullness of your potential. So now I ask you, will you keep wandering, or will you finally begin to walk? Will you keep searching? And so the storm passes, but not without leaving its mark. You stand now at the edge of something unnamed, a silence after thunder, a stillness after fire. The questions that once haunted you no longer demand answers. They become echoes within, reverberations of self no longer willing to be silent. What was sought in desperation is now felt in the marrow. Meaning is not found, it is chosen, with trembling hands, with burning heart, with eyes wide open to the abyss and unflinching. You were never lost. You were only waiting. Waiting for the moment when the mask would crack, when the illusion would shatter, when the voice inside would rise louder than all the voices outside. And now here you are, not at the end, but at the threshold, not finished, but transformed, not certain, but awake. The paradox remains, as all great truths do. Purpose is not discovered, it is defied. It is not given, it is taken. Not by force, but by will. Not by chance, but by choice. You were not born to follow another's path. You were not made to wear another's dream like a borrowed coat. You were forged in chaos, shaped by struggle, called by the whisper that speaks only to those who dare to listen. Become who you are. And who are you, if not the sum of your choices? If not the fire that burns behind the eyes, the weight of your silence, the depth of your longing? Who are you when no one is watching? When the world fades and only the echo of your soul remains? This is where the journey begins. Not in grand declarations or sudden revelations, but in the quiet truth that rises when you stop running from yourself. In the breath before action, in the pause between fear and courage, in the space where you finally say, enough, enough pretending, enough waiting, enough silence. So now, what will you create from the ruins of your old beliefs? What will rise from the ashes of your former self? Will you build again, or will you burn brighter? Because the world does not need more followers. It does not hunger for more echoes. It calls for creators, for those who do not wait for permission, but speak anyway, for those who do not seek approval, but act regardless, for those who do not fear the dark, because they have learned to carry their own light. And perhaps, just perhaps, you are one of them. So breathe deep, let the silence settle, feel the weight of what has been said and what has only just begun. And when you are ready, press subscribe, not as an action, but as a declaration, a promise to yourself that you will not turn away, that you will keep going, that you will not forget this moment. Leave a comment, not to explain, but to remember, to carve a symbol in the digital wind, saying, I was here, I listened, I heard, and share this with someone else who might still be sleeping. Not because you have the answers, but because you know what it means to ask the right questions. Because the greatest thing you can give another soul is the courage to awaken,